Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. This episode is brought to you by Orisha. Stop interruptions and focus on what matters most. Delegate repetitive duties in your tunnel to Orisha. Sleep better knowing that they'll call you if anything goes wrong in your greenhouse. Be sure to check out their homepage for useful advice on how to simplify your farm life. Orisha, that is ORISHA.io. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with you, another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And today my guest is Luke Sheldrick, owner of Terramor Farm in Burnstown, Ontario. With a background in the restaurant industry, Luke and his partner Dana Moores have combined their passion for high-quality food and sustainable farming to create a thriving farm that serves top restaurants, markets, and a growing CSA program in the Ottawa Valley. Luke, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of background of how did you get started in the farming world?
So I was raised outside of Ottawa. My parents grew vegetables, but never really did it as a commercial business. So we had some history in knowing the work involved, but I never really knew you could make a career doing it. And then Dana and I it sort of coincided directly with when Dana and I began dating, because like one of my first dates was we were working in the restaurant industry in Ottawa. And of course, taking her out to the family farm was a nice date. And we liked it. We enjoyed working on the farm, and we realized we could sell some produce. So we approached my father and said, hey, we'll come out one day a week, work on the farm. We can bring it back into the city to sell to our friends, and we'll split the income. So that was just a little side thing. Mm-hmm. But it quickly grew that year from 5 to 20 members. And then very serendipitously at the exact same time, I found The Market Gardener on the shelf, like the book, The Market Gardener, on the shelf at work. I worked at the Whale's Bone. Mm-hmm. And it was really wild. I guess Jean Martin had given it as a gift to the prior chef, and it was just sitting there on the chef with a little note in the front to the chef that had been named Chloe. I asked if I could borrow it.
Yeah.
And I said, like, Dana, I think this is it. And I'm sort of like an ideas guy. And typically our system is like, if Dana thinks it's a good one, we roll with it. It's kind of like a natural part of our relationship. And she was like, this is a good idea. And we decided to take it more seriously into that second year. So it was very, very serendipitous.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so then talk to us a little bit about those early years. Now, it sounds like you were on family land.
For only 2 seasons, believe it or not. So that year that we decided to take it more seriously, we approached my dad and said, we want to lease land. We want to do things our way. We want to make a crop plan. And we, like the ambitious people we were, hand dug raised beds with like string. And it was amazing and hilarious. But we got very lucky that year, lots of rain. And we thought farming was super easy. We were only going out a couple days a week, and that sort of ignorance is bliss. We got a lot of great produce from just that. The following year, we decided to move out of the city, rent a house 5 minutes from my parents, and we had these big dreams of succession and things like that. So very quickly, though, that season, we realized that succession probably wasn't in the cards for like multiple reasons. Number one being investing into land with uncertainty is not ideal. Depending on the family, like also just like working with family, like it was kind of so close to family was like we realized maybe not long term what we wanted. And then lastly, even the 5-minute commute was like partially to do with where we were in our lives at that time, like not super organized. So maybe now we could stomach 5-minute commute, but at that time in our lives, that added time, we built a little cold room in the basement of that rental house, and like trudging up and down the stairs and moving produce and trying to wash it in totes back there. And so very quickly that spring we switched, and Dana actually became the primary farmer we both still had jobs in the city to try to make this dream alive. So we were commuting into the city. We were working in excess of 50 hours a week. And I switched my focus to business planning because we, through a friend, found out that we would actually be able to get a mortgage. So it was
Yeah.
it was busy, but yeah. So we ended up. That was another serendipitous story. I don't want to get too personal, but we thought we had in no hope of getting a mortgage, but found out through the Canadian Agricultural Loans Act we would be eligible since we had had a business for 2 years and a decent business plan. So
Very cool. So that it was, is that just a program of Quebec?
there are many programs that are really beneficial that are only Quebec, and that's something that like Ontario farmers face. This is a federal program. They're government-backed loans
Mm.
up to $500,000, and they're aimed at giving farmers uh, the ability to sort of scale up.
Mm.
But they include mortgages. Like it's because I guess they can't discriminate. So typically they're more aimed at large-scale farms. But we were able to access that funding because they can apply for mortgages.
Very cool. All right, so talk a little bit then about kind of like the property you were looking for that you are farming now. Like, what characteristics of that property were key for you as you were looking for property and then purchasing it?
Anything in the price range. We didn't feel
Okay.
super picky. Like anything in the area and the price range, but we feel like we got very lucky. Like this was the second place we looked at. The first place fell through, and in hindsight, we are so thankful it did. We tried to not get too emotionally attached, but it happens.
Mm.
But this place that we got, the second place we looked at, is like it's beautiful. Like southern slope, we dug a pond right away where all of the field water runs into. Sandy loam. We're on a dead end road with no commercial farms within even 5 kilometers. It's very fortunate where we're sort of tucked in to this really nice. It's only 4 acres of field even available, and we're farming about 3. It's only an 8 acre property, but it's just kind of split in half, surrounded by woods. We feel very fortunate. A large barn, so we have 2 cold rooms, a wash station, plenty of storage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was just one of the properties that came up as you were searching.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the day after we found out the other one had closed, and we had celebrated the night before, but then realized we were pretty sad actually, and then just went back to the drawing board, and it popped up, and
Yeah.
we couldn't believe it. The house was bigger than what we wanted. Like we have a pretty big old
Mm.
farmhouse. It took a long time to sort of make it feel lived in, but yeah, yeah.
Very cool. All right, so then you built a pond. Now, does your irrigation water come from that pond? You pump it from a well?
Exclusively from the pond.
Okay.
So we've had some scares. We'd like to, for one thing, make that bigger. It's pretty large to begin with, but we've like with the heat of this summer's been fine, but in the past we've had some summers concern of it getting low. And we'd like to get a separate well someday for our greenhouses. It would just be a little bit easier than running off the house, but that's a problem area that we're kind of addressing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about kind of like how the farm's set up. Fields, obviously, tunnels. How many tunnels do you have?
So we have two 3,600 square foot greenhouses. They're 30 by 120. Both are
Okay.
fully automated by Orisha with heat and automatic roll-up sides. And then we have 5 cat tunnels. One is 120 feet that moves across our 3 flower plots. And then
Okay.
4 are 100 feet long that move across our 100 bed plots. So we have, should I
Okay.
continue on sort of our field plans?
Yeah. Let's keep moving to that.
So aside from that, we have 21 plots that are 100 feet by 30 feet, so 8 bed plots. 3 flower plots that are 120 by 30, and then one more that's just an irregular shape that is just we call it the pond garden. It's kind of just like next to the irrigation pond, and it's wider, so I think it's about like 80 to 100 by 60 the other way, like width wise. The beds are like sort of 60 to 80 depending where you are along it, and it's about 60 to 80 wide. So I think there's 14 beds in there that range in length. Those are the only beds that range in length.
Okay. Yeah. So then talk to me about, like, the flower field is 120 feet long. Is that just because of how the land laid?
Yeah, like we wanted to sort of sneak 2 in next to the greenhouses, so that's why. So there's like F1 and F2 are next to greenhouse 1 and greenhouse 2. So those are the flower rotation. And then we had one irregular spot where we could sneak another plot in, so it just kind of is on a lengthwise down a slope. So it kind of just to tack another plot in, it's irregular. So it's 120, like down along our property line, whereas the rest run perpendicular to that.
Okay. And then let's talk flowers here for a minute. The hoop house that you use for flowers, what flowers do you grow in the hoop house?
Right now, dahlias, and we want more. Right? Like we've realized we think we need more for the flowers. There's just so many that would benefit from it. Like I think like percentage wise, I don't know how you like percentage wise when you're thinking of a vegetable farm, you don't need a ton of like percentage of space. I think we're probably floating around like 10% tunnels, like cat tunnels for the field, or 10 to 20. But I think flowers you could get away with more like 50%, just because like the amount that they benefit. When I think of crops we need for vegetables to be covered, it's like in the field, it's maybe some field tomatoes would benefit a bit, peppers for sure, eggplants. But when you think of flowers, it's a lot of them that benefit greatly from it.
Yeah.
So right now it's just dahlias.
Gotcha.
Like I kind of steered away, but right now it's just dahlias. We would like to have some tunneled space for eucalyptus, Lysianthus, and to some extent even other ones. That, to be honest, it's not fully my wheelhouse. That's more Dana's, but that's what I know, and I think there's even more.
All right. So if I corner you on dahlia varieties, you're not going to be able to answer.
I help out quite a bit, but no, I won't be great. There's also so many. Like I think we have over 30 types, and we're not even a huge farmer. And every year we're trying to narrow them down. What do you want to know?
I just am always interested in what others are doing. We added a few this year to ours, but the ones we added, I ended up getting the box so late that I don't even know if we'll get flowers off them. So we have some that overwintered, but the problem with them when they overwintered is that we had a vole get into them.
Oh no!
And he just ran up and down those roads and created complete havoc. Yeah, so we lost about 50%. Now, thankfully, he was punished.
Got that one.
So he's no longer with us. But we did lose and it's really heartbreaking too, because those things are so expensive.
They are. Big investment.
And because they had been in the ground one year, the ones that made it just came out with vengeance and looked really, really good.
That's amazing.
But anyway, yeah. Let's go back to eucalyptus. Now your big tunnels, the ones that are automated with the Orisha, do you keep those above freezing all winter, or do you just let them freeze after your crops are done for the year?
In the past, we just let them freeze. This will be the first year that we're. Where's my book? Oh, I lent it to one of my staff. We're Catherine Sylvester and Jean-Martin Fortier wrote the Winter Market Gardener, and I'm going to be following that to extend our season. So we'll be partially heating 1 to 3 degrees, like Celsius, 3 degrees Celsius, and leaving 1 unheated. So this will be the first year of that. But typically in the past, we just kind of let it go and maybe play around with a little bit of row cover. But I'm normally like the idea of like being in the tunnels consciously each day in the shoulder season in the past has exhausted me. Like we kind of try to shut down in November. But this year we're
Yeah.
pushing to a December 15th cutoff and an earlier start.
Okay, yeah, interesting because we have our eucalyptus in one of our tunnels that we do
Wow.
heat. Now it does get below freezing at that end, and but the bases on the eucalyptus are now probably 3 inches plus.
Wow.
Um, and those things are right to the ceiling. So I would highly recommend if you do have protected culture, just throw them right. We have them on the north end of the tunnel, so they're literally the north wall. So we don't get any shade with the other crops, but it sure makes we have so much eucalyptus, we have a hard time, get using it all.
Wow.
So, but that may be something that could just because you plant it once and then it just keeps coming
Oh my
back.
goodness. And that's you said it can even survive below.
Yeah, I told. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's surviving below zero.
Um, Yeah, I think probably we get down to probably minus in Celsius, probably 4 to 5 in there.
Okay.
Now, obviously, someone's going to come correct me and say, Michael, eucalyptus can survive down to X.
Yeah, yeah.
This year it flowered, and that was fascinating to see eucalyptus flower.
Interesting, yeah.
So yeah, it's been definitely an interesting crop to grow. I love growing it. I just love the smell. I just love the look.
Yeah.
And our customers love it too. But yeah, I did want to point out something you just said, which is really important. As you said, you kind of get through November 5th or 15th or so, and you just kind of like are done. You're burnt out or just done for the season, which I think is very normal because we're going so hard during the summer. But I think the important thing is, and this is why I always talk about farms building teams, is that if you build a solid team, you can continue to go all winter, feed your customers, and keep people employed, and have vacations and breaks.
Yep.
So that's why I just think it's so important that people have a solid staff, which are year round.
Yes, absolutely. We don't do the year round, but I definitely agree with the benefits
Yeah.
of a solid team.
What is your kind of season for your team?
So we have the joke is the core four that started with us last year. We had a large turnover in the year 2022. So the core four started with us last spring. Everyone was brand new, fresh, and they start in. It kind of ranges. A couple people, like depending on the workload, mid-March all the way up to sort of April. They all begin, but everyone by April 1st was on full time. Those four, and then those four work up until like last year it was December 1st. This year it'll be December 15th, I think, if everything goes to plan. But again, staggered finishes. I sort of, as the season's winding down, I try to get everyone's interests. Like, if you could leave early, what would be your perfect date? And typically, it ends up working out. And then we have students
Gotcha.
that come in from sort of the May to August, which is again perfect timing. Like 4 students, and so they're just wrapping up their season over the next couple of weeks, and they'll be back to school.
Yeah, yeah. We definitely are sad to lose our summer help.
Yeah.
We have a couple students that work with us, and they're great. And then, but I mean, the thing is, hopefully, most of your big projects for the year are done by the time they end up going back.
That's what we're like hitting the drawing board hard right now.
Yeah, yeah. What needs still done? Let's go back to your tunnels here.
Yep.
Okay, so they're automated by Orisha. Talk to me a little bit about kind of like the shape. I'm assuming they're regular Gothic tunnels with like a 4-foot roll up, or
Yeah, precisely. Yep. Just so that way they can shed snow. Obviously, like inflator fan, double poly. And the first one we built, not knowing much, we put the roll ups right on the ground. And then the second one, we learned to sort of adapt it to be a bit of a higher tunnel to permit a skirt, as I'll call
Yep.
it. Like I think that's or side wall, hip wall,
knee wall. Yeah.
knee wall. There it is. So yeah, and that's sort of the corrugated plastic that's dug down below grade, and that elevates our roll-ups. And then I think those ones are 5 feet because those have insect netting. So with the addition of insect netting, the advice to us was to sort of make them even a little bit bigger. And yeah, so that's a massive upgrade. So now I think it's been 8 years, so it's almost time to go back to the first one. We got to change the plastic. We're probably going to upgrade it to be more similar to take those roll-ups off, move them up, dig out the sides, put that knee wall in, etc.
Yeah, we really want to upgrade one of our tunnels to insect netting. We are in Ohio, so we do get a lot more heat. So I think to make us work properly, it would be best to get a ridge vent going as well. And then insect net that. Just a lot more airflow, because the sides, if I restrict the airflow on the sides, I just don't think I'm going to have enough flow going back and forth to really keep it cool. So if I can get the ridge vent going, though, so my side air is coming in and then just going up and out the ridge vent, I think that's going to be a lot better setup.
I think those,
you guys
the concept of that just seems so logical. Like hot air rises, it's obviously must be drawing in. I'd love to see a side by side of the stats on just regular roll up sides next to roll up sides with a ridge vent. It would be interesting to see that.
Yeah, we're supposed to build one more tunnel, so maybe the last tunnel we build, we will go ahead and build it like that, and then we'll keep the existing one and we'll be able to monitor temps.
That'd be neat.
There should be money for that really out cool there.
Yeah,
I bet I could get a NRCS grant. I don't know what they would pay for, because they don't like depending on what you go for, which one you go for, they won't pay for like infrastructure. A lot of times they'll just pay for the monitoring, but the problem is I'm already paying for the monitoring because I've got Orisha in there. So maybe they would just fund Orisha for a year.
That would be all right.
Yes, that would totally be all right. All right, so then you did talk about Orisha, you use that for automation. Talk to me a little bit about kind of like how you're using it. One of the things that I feel like and then again, it's 100% on me, is I haven't done enough training to totally use it well. So have you gone through that training? Like, what were the big takeaways?
Well, number one, I would say their staff are incredible to work with. Fred is on speed dial with me, and I hope that I always laugh. I'm like, when I promote this, I'm like, I hope they're not. I hope this doesn't put more work on their plate. But like, they're so helpful.
Yeah.
Staff. Like an onboarding call right away to help you set up. But then any issues, they can view the app from your app from their end. So if anything's like a little bit funky, they can troubleshoot it, check it out. And really responsive to feedback. So I've loved working with them. I've even done, like, when we went to set up the automatic valves, like we have our irrigation set up. I'd love to go into more detail about this in a moment when we get a chance. But yeah, setting that up was out of my element, but I had him on video call, and we're just kind of like going over and then learned through just trial and error with him. So I have a minor in electrical now.
Yes. Okay. So then the irrigation automation, because we don't have Orisha for that. We may at some point. We're with HydroWise and just valves, but that would not be a bad idea. I mean, I really probably could just take the current valves we have and just reroute them right to the Orisha app. We probably should upgrade that this winter, because it would be nice to have one system controlling every parameter of the greenhouse growing. That would not be a bad idea.
And like, even just talking to them about ideas, they can walk you through. They're sort of adaptable too, in a way. They're open to sort of different ideas. So if I may, I had an idea sort of talking to Dubois and them. I don't think this is a completely original idea. I'm sure others have done it, but with us irrigating from a pond, in order to irrigate our greenhouses adequately, we were running our main pump 4 times a day, like minimum, right? And you want those pulses for greenhouse tomatoes to be sort of shorter So we were doing like 4 15-minute pulses to try to get an ideal irrigation for our greenhouses, and then sort of running around irrigating what needed to be irrigated. So it was terribly inefficient. It was almost a full-time job, just like turning on and off valves in our field. So our first step was to put them into zones. So we have like main valves now, because it's a little bit hard for us to automate the field irrigation. So we have just zones, so that we don't have to be running around turning on and off 21 plots. We do a zone at a time. So that was the first step. Then the second step was we added 2 1,000 liter tanks to our greenhouse. And then we spoke to Dubois and Orisha and sort of hatched this plan to get it onto a pump and automation. And it's on a float valve. So every time we irrigate the fields.
Interesting.
Yeah. So every time we irrigate the fields, it fills the 2,000 liter tanks. And then they can we don't have to be planning our irrigations around the greenhouses. They just run off of Orisha. So we actually have both greenhouses running off of that in 4 different zones with four automatic valves. So each greenhouse is broken up into 2 zones. And they're just going throughout the day. And what's amazing about Orisha as well, you can even go into the app in the morning. So I don't run the irrigation anymore. We have a manager, but she has all these different timers set. So she has a timer in the morning to set the cloud cover. So on a sunny day, it's programmed for X amount of irrigations. On a cloudy day, it's X amount. So I think it's like 4, 2, 1 or something. Like I don't even remember off the top of my head. But for partially cloudy.
Yeah.
So then we took it one step further, because there's still opportunity for human error, because Dubois, thank you for your patience with me. I blew up a couple of pumps, because the tanks would run dry if anyone missed flicking on the pump. And then I was like, what's with the fittings? They're blowing out. But it was actually because the tanks had run dry and the pump was running. So thank you, Alexandra, for your patience with me. And we fixed that. People can learn from my errors. So we automated the main pump as well. So just to take any human error out of the opportunity. So now it's timed with those irrigations, or at least a minimum of enough to give the tank enough water to do those throughout the day.
Yeah. Hey, farmers, we've all lost crops before, but in a greenhouse, the cost and the impact can be significantly more. Joining me is Guillaume from Orisha. Talk to us about different ways you can lose crops in the greenhouse.
Yeah, first is during spring, right? When during the same day, it's really cold outside, your crops can freeze, and then the sun comes out and gets really warm into your greenhouse, into your tunnel, and everything can burn. Especially when you have like those early seedlings transplant in the greenhouse, you want to prevent that. Then comes all the disease problem that goes on top of it, all the mishaps when we forget about doing something. So these are the things we want to prevent.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the ways that we can start making sure that we're aware of these problems?
Like, it's so easy to ignore what's happening, but now it's also very easy to have a sensor in the greenhouse. The first thing you should do is have a sensor in the greenhouse that will alert you, that will give you a call, that will send you a text message when the temperature goes too low or too high, so you can act before losing your hard work.
And what are some of these other advantages of having like a monitoring system in your greenhouse?
Yeah, for us at Orisha, we started working on the humidity, like disease visibility. So when you have conditions in the greenhouse where you open the door to the disease and all these problems, so you can see what you should do, what you shouldn't do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the whole idea here for the alert and for the visibility is to help prevent these catastrophes and just lower the stress in general, knowing that you can go off the farm without worrying all the time if something is going to happen.
Absolutely.
I have a story about a lady I was talking to, and she said that she wouldn't go to Easter with her family. She wouldn't celebrate Easter with her family because she was too afraid of losing her crops. It happened in the past. She didn't want to do it again. So she just put a sensor in there, got alerts on her phone, and then she felt comfortable to go again. These are simple things you can do. It's quite cheap to help you get out of the farm, enjoy life, and get some rest.
Absolutely. To find out more about Orisha, including their popular leasing option with no upfront costs, go to orisha.io. That is ORISHA.io. Also, download their free guide, Maximizing Your Greenhouse Income, at the website orisha.io. Okay, so then talk me through this. How often does Orisha, because that's automated now, how often are they watering the greenhouse for you?
That same amount of times. Like it's like on a sunny day, we're doing four pulses.
Okay.
And then I hope this is correct. I think this is like someone might correct me. On a sunny day, we're doing like 4 20-minute, 15, 20-minute pulses. And then on a partially shady day, 2. And then on a fully shady day, 1. And it's going pretty well. I've seen some issues that look like they're related to water in the tunnels, like they could be getting more. I'm going to go back to the drawing board and get a little bit more of a solid regimen of cleaning the tank, like maybe put something in every so often to mitigate the algae, because now we're having to clear the filters almost daily, and I wonder if that's getting into the lines, because I do see some water related issues. So this plan isn't flawless, it still needs to be worked on.
What filters are you using? What type of filters?
Like a micro filter that's in the valve.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a filter at the pump. Don't get me wrong. We do have a filter at the pump.
Is that a sand
which takes
filter?
out like that's the solid, like a micro filter. Yeah, like it's pretty fine. I don't know specifically what one, but again, through Dubois. And then at the actual valves on the out, so that's to go into those tanks and out to the field. And then the valves themselves that take the water out of those tanks and into the greenhouses have little filters, and they're at the point now where they need to be cleaned regularly.
Yeah, you may need to go to, because like I've seen you. What you might want to do is go to an automated. You can go to an automated auto flush filter, which literally every day or so it will sense when it's getting too much of a differential in pressure, and it will actually flush your filter.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But the other thing, so there's a couple different, you can, yeah. So there's many different variations in filters. So obviously you can have the little tiny screen filters, which we use on a lot of different things. And yes, we have to change those almost every day in some of the situations because of what we pump through our system. But then you can go to a disc filter, which has 200 to 300 little discs stacked together. And that we change way less frequently. But then the next step up is to typically go to one of those auto flush. And a lot of them come out of Israel. You might have to go talk to the folks at Brookdale Fruit Supply. They if anyone knows irrigation, he does. That guy does. Again, I'm not knocking at all.
I'll make a note.
Yeah, I'm not knocking at all the folks at Dubois. But I will say is their specialty is not necessarily irrigation. They have a lot of the parts you need and all of that, but some of this more, if you're trying to clean filters every day, that's to me a flag that you need to adjust your filtering system. The only other thing I would say is that in these tanks, if you're emptying them every single day, they shouldn't be collecting that much algae. But you might want to look at trying to change the pH a little bit. Or just adding a sanitizer in there too.
That's what I was thinking, is just something that's food safe. I wanted to do a little bit of research just to add to our sort of weekly routine or even daily routine. The problem with them is that they never drain fully, and the water going in is pond water. We have a similar setup in our wash station, and it's different because it's the water we drink in our home. And because it's constantly cycling, that water is 100% food safe because it's safe water to drink, and we're going through it so fast. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But the stuff in the greenhouse that comes from a pond, completely different.
Correct. Yeah.
But I like the idea of adding additional filter on the way out.
Yeah, the pond, is that draining just from your property, or is you bringing in a much larger aquifer watershed?
We think we hit a little bit of water, but it wasn't anything. We saw some water when we were digging originally, but it wasn't like an aquifer by any means. It's mostly groundwater. What's that called? Water runoff?
Yes, runoff.
But we think we hit a little bit. But judging by how much it goes down when our supply that has accumulated from winter.
Mm-hmm.
Judging by how much it goes down, I don't think we're getting a ton of flow from the ground.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so then let's talk a little bit about your marketing, because we've kind of talked about a bunch of the production side and all how that works. And I do want to encourage folks to go to your website. It's terramorfarm.com. Beautiful website. You said you built it on Shopify, so it's really nicely done. So yeah, definitely check that out. But talk a little bit about kind of like, who you're selling to, how you're getting the food to them.
Yeah, okay. So we do 80 CSA baskets per season. We sell at 3 farmers markets, and then we sell to over 20 restaurants and retail locations, which is mostly restaurants and 3 retail locations. Yeah, in short, that's it. But I can expand upon any of that you'd like to.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your chefs. Kind of like, I'm assuming you have like a set product list that you share once a week, or kind of how does that relationship work?
Precisely. So we use like a MailChimp. I'm sure people are familiar with it. If you're not, it's what we use for a lot of our emailing, and it's a great resource. So we use that for our CSA list. We have different lists, but yeah, CSA list, our retail fresh list, and our restaurant fresh list. And yeah, because we come from that industry, it's been a great sales avenue for us. And I really find that the 3 together work really well. Like we've never, even since day one, we've never had a problem selling produce. Our bigger problem was always producing enough, which is a great problem to have. But yeah, we've never really had a much issue moving the product. We just had to learn how to farm better. But
yeah, your issues were producing more product.
Yeah, which is a nice, like I say, nice thing to have as an issue. And it was interesting in the early years. It was really 30% each markets, CSA restaurants, but now it's grown to be more like 50% is restaurants and 30% is markets and 20% is CSA, or maybe even less. Oh, and there's flowers in there. So
okay. Yeah. So then where do the flowers go? Do they go to any of your retail, or are those mostly direct?
Mostly direct. It's grown and changed as well. Markets is probably our biggest sales avenue for those. We sell a few on our we put them on our chef list and sell like the odd DIY bucket that people are just like going to put flowers out on the tables, which is really nice little bonus. Retail locations, only one of our 3 like the bouquets, but we think we'd like to try to take on more. We just haven't had to this year because we are selling everything through our markets and retail. But as it grows, that's an opportunity to sort of just cold call. And then lastly, we're actually, if you check out on the website, we're starting to do wedding. We've done a few weddings over the past 2 seasons, but it's getting a little more serious now where we have a full menu, DIY options, a la carte options, and almost like a full service.
Now on the when you work with restaurants for the vegetables, what do you have a specialty of specific crops that you specialize in, or are you doing the whole range?
The whole range, and that's something that has been over the years, something I guess we're kind of almost a little hard on ourselves for, but it ended up being beneficial, which was trying to have the biggest thing when we were starting out was aiming towards having the same products every week on our fresh list as much as possible and at market. So just like those staples, like we want to have carrots, radish, turnip, salad, cilantro, dill, basil, parsley, cherry tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, so that your customers on the fresh list, but also at market, know they're coming there and they're going to see that stuff every week. And that has helped with chefs. They know they can get it every week. They like consistency. And then definitely on the fresh list, a heads up if something's coming off or a heads up if something's coming on. When I used to do the deliveries, a lot of communication, and I try to encourage our delivery driver to do that as well, just to kind of keep them in the loop. But yeah, that's it. We try to do a broad list, but it's mostly consistent, the staples. We've steered away from brassicas, melons, winter squash. We're sort of starting to refine our fresh list over the years. Those things are just taking up bed space, and we've realized we're not excellent at getting a high percentage of marketable product. So we're going to continue to do the things we're good at.
Yeah, well, those are always low dollar crops anyway. So if you've got, if you're a 30-acre farm, you got the space, they can make some good money. But if you're a smaller farm, it's just not worth the square footage. So.
No, it's hard, and it's a hard thing to do. Like every year, like this is the year we're gonna get that cauliflower crop, and then you're like, again, you just got stinky cauliflower out in the field.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. All right, well, let's kind of talk a little bit more about the business. Talk a little about your team. You kind of talked about your core team. How do you find your teammates?
I absolutely love our team here at Terramor Farm, and I'm super thankful for all of them. Last year, we started out with a structure of just those 4 lead roles, and through just working together, we hadn't really designated anyone from the start, but we found each person filled into a role really nicely. So we had one person leading the nursery, one person leading the flowers, one person leading the wash station, and one person leading the field, which is pretty natural, and just a balanced structure of everyone on the same level in leadership roles. And then this year we steered away from that, and we actually have a manager, assistant manager, and that has been a world of difference. It's really taken us to the next level and allowed me as the owner to work more outside of the business, and then also work with Bryn, our manager, to sort of improve and develop that position. Like from the start of the season to now, her position has changed so drastically. Likewise for Cal, who's the assistant manager, and even the other roles to a lesser extent. Like actually not even a lesser extent. Louise on the flowers is her own. She's working with Dana, and they're facilitating that whole end of things. And then we have Rachel, who's in the nursery.
Gotcha. All right. And so then they are just kind of owning their role. Do you do a lot of SOPs, or kind of how do you kind of communicate exactly what they're supposed to be doing in their roles?
Yeah, throughout the years, we've definitely developed more and more systems, and we definitely do have like varying degrees of SOPs, from simple things like having a little whiteboard on the outside of the fridge to having full write-ups in different areas on the farm, sort of taped there on how things should be done. This year, we're transitioning to everything from hours to communication is all on Drive. Like the farm has a wish list, like my shopping list on Monday, that the things that the staff need. Even just saving that from being on a whiteboard from last year is drastically improved, because on Monday I'm not running out there, what do I need? I just hop on and do that. The team shares photos into Drive. So Drive has been a big one for us. And yeah, SOPs definitely, like whiteboards everywhere. And spreadsheets and clipboards.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then, so like on Monday, you're kind of doing your list, and then does all your team also do lists of what needs done in their areas? Do you have, besides these 4 main folks, you have some seasonal help, and so then are they assigning things down to the seasonal workers to do as well?
Yeah, we have a large whiteboard that has the weekly to do. It's split in half. It has our week out on it, and then we use. I take in all the orders. We've changed our order cutoff to Friday, which has been a huge. Sorry, our fresh list goes out on Friday. Our order cutoff is Sunday. It used to be Tuesday, which would kind of put a bit of a kink in our week. So now, with this change, Monday I do all of the harvest lists on spreadsheets. Then all of them inform our whiteboard for our sort of grand harvest list. So that's all on the same large whiteboard that takes up almost one wall of the wash station, which is split into, like I said, the weekly to-do list and the harvest list. And I meet with Bryn on Fridays and Mondays, and we go over everything. So it's Mondays are normally over an hour, and then Fridays she leaves at noon. So that's a quick one. It's about a half an hour just to wrap up the week and make sure we're on track. So one-on-ones I try to do weekly with Bryn and Cal, and then Cal and Bryn run the one-on-ones with the other staff.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so for like your seeding, does your farm manager do all your seeding for you, or kind of? So I'm trying to understand like where your week goes as well.
Yeah. So each person has different things in their wheelhouse. I used to be a lot more hands-on on the farm, but like as my role has changed, I am involved with the day-to-day actual like physical labor much less, and that took a lot of time to get used to. Like I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like early on, what made the farm successful is very different from what it does now. Like Dana and I were just sort of like loved hard work, and we sort of had to grow and develop and change into being better at managing. But my week to week now is definitely not. Yeah, Bryn does the direct seeding, and she manages the day to day. Cal manages the field and the harvest and communicates that with Bryn. We have one of our seasonal staff which help with the wash station. Bryn sort of facilitates everything, but also is always kind of checking in, like from her headquarters would definitely be the wash station. And my week is just filled with sort of making sure everything's running smoothly, which was really a hard thing for me to learn. Like even last year, I was still trying to really work in the business and do my job of like running the business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fill your cup as much. Like it's not very tactile. Like my days they kind of just fly by if I'm being completely honest. And I kind of go, what did I do today? But then I had to kind of come to terms with, if the farm is running well and our sales are going up, I must be doing okay at whatever it is I do. But it's like very strange. It's not nearly as tactile as like going out and building 8 beds and like getting your heart rate up and being like, hell yeah. It's not like that anymore.
Well, it comes back to.
I'm sure you know all too well.
Well, yeah. I mean, our business is scaling by 30 to 40% every year, and so it's growing very fast, and that means my role every single year changes drastically as we keep adding more team members. But my coach basically said to me, okay, so Michael, what do you want in your business? Do you want to maintain that, hands-on, I'm going to be out weeding the carrots with the crew? Or do you want to have a field manager who they're out there weeding the carrots with the crew, and you're inside, working on business growth and being the CEO? So in one aspect, I have decided I don't want a CEO is not exactly what I want to be, because there's aspects of that I just don't really love. So I think right now I'm the CEO, and I'm that's where my role will be for the next 2 to 3 years. But we do envision within we are right now we are trying to identify that what would make a good CEO for this business, and find that person. Now that person will be very expensive, but it will free me up to do what I want to do. Because again, I think the reason why a lot of us farm is it's not for the money, obviously. Because many of us could go make really good money doing other things. Like my mini split guy who does my installs, great guy. He told me what he would have charged me to put that mini split in, and I realized that he was making $200 to $250 an hour. And again, nothing wrong with that. Again, go for him. But I was like, if I wanted to do that, I could very easily do that. But I've chosen what I want to do is farm. Mm-hmm. And so that comes back to that aspect of things is like, okay, I don't want to be a CEO and sit in an office and, push papers and be on the phone all day. I want to be outside, and not necessarily weeding carrots, but there's so many other aspects of the farm that, I can do that help with the growth. So I think we are moving to the point of we will be finding that person that will be, they're responsible for growing the business. I'm responsible for, different aspects. And, but yeah, it comes back to what you really want from the business and, how you kind of have it set up. But you're absolutely right that you do feel like, what did I do all day? But then it comes back to, well, the business ran smoothly and we grew and we made more money and the team was happy, and that's what's important.
100%. And it did take me time to become comfortable with that. It's like it was,
Yeah.
but it's nice to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got a great team. It sounds like a phenomenal team, which is really taking and going with things. And I think that's the aspect. If you do have those people that get it, want it, and have the capacity, then you are golden and you can just keep growing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really thankful for them. They foster a really great culture. And of course, I do my best to help facilitate that. But it does come down to every member of the team. And I'm super thankful for all of them.
Yeah. All right. So based on this, you've got kind of the systems going. Where do you see your farm in a couple of years?
We, during COVID, scaled up quite a bit, drastically. And so at this time, I just kind of want to stay at this size and refine things, maybe add some pieces of infrastructure every so often to continue to smooth things out. But I don't think we want to do anything drastic, to be completely honest. I hope that's not a boring answer, but I just like, if I can put some context, I'll expand on it.
Yeah. No. It's working, and now you're just, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, our system is working, we're where we want to be, we're just going to keep tightening up every single year and make our business, our processes better.
Yeah, like the big scale up, like they talk about in business, like the ebbs and flows, right? Like, and COVID represented a huge change for us because over the course of 2 years, we more than doubled in size. So when you're talking about like annual growth, like from 2020 to 2022, we went from like a 3-man crew with 50 CSAs, 1 farmer's market, and 5 to 8 restaurants, and that everything went boom because we thought we more than doubled our CSA because we thought markets and restaurants were going to close. Then everything opened and we just had to keep hiring people and we hadn't created any of these systems. So we just all of a sudden, I had limited management skills, no systems, and a crew of 8 people. It was like, so we're playing.
Yeah, and then you add that up per hour, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm blowing $100 an hour in labor. I better get good at this management.
Yeah, it was nuts. So we finally have a system where we're really happy. Like it feels like everyone is on track and things are going well. The last thing we want to do is do that again. We want to just like refine. So
yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's answer these quick questions at the end. What kind of advice would you give to a beginning farmer?
I guess enjoy every moment, even the failures. I hope that's not cliche, but in every failure is a great lesson of some kind. And the quicker you can identify what that lesson is, the sooner you can say farewell to the emotion attached to that failure.
That's some good advice right there. Absolutely. Favorite tool?
Orisha.
Okay.
And second, like I'm so thankful to like automation has literally changed our lives. Automating the greenhouses, we can leave the property. I can also take time off and know that no one is going to have to be out of the corner of their eye wondering if we should roll the sides up or down. Automating the irrigation, like it just adds so much peace of mind to the day-to-day operations of the farm. And then hand tool would be the paper pot transplanter.
What crops do you paper pot?
We do herbs like cilantro and dill, scallions, kohlrabi, fennel, bok choy. I think that's it. Sometimes spinach and sunflowers.
Okay, sunflowers. And then how do you mark your beds before you transplant? Do you, because I'm assuming when you cultivate, you're doing a 1-row cultivation with like a wheel hoe or stirrup hoe?
We do the whole bed. We do a 30-inch bed. So, but still with a wheel hoe or BCS tractor, like walk line tractor. And We don't mark out our beds. We kind of just
Okay.
go along the outsides and then the middle. And the rows aren't perfect, but we don't cultivate with anything automated, so we just kind of stir a hoe around it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Very cool. Well, Luke, it's been great having you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for sharing, and it's been a fun conversation. And yeah, keep growing up there.
Thanks so much for having me.
So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.